GNASS. Two degenerates, both sides of the border. John Santino, Alex Lacasse. The Great North American Sports Show. Here we go. Another edition of GNASS. I think this one might be a little bit gloomier than normal, right, Alex?
Yeah, there's plenty of bitching for both our favorite teams, John, to go around. No sacred cows on the Great North American Sports Show.
No, not at all. I mean, just Tin Men, man. You know why? Because these bitches be heartless.
Unless it's
That's
Xander
how it
Bogaerts.
is.
Xander Bogaerts, he's a sacred cow in my book.
Well, he can be a sacred cow because he's a sacred cow on the West Coast now, Alex.
Yeah, he's a sacred cow on the Padres.
I know. How are things out in New Hampshire, my friend?
Well, I shouldn't say surprisingly, but it's now kind of sort of starting to feel like summer, and that's actually a very delightful time to be here. So I can't complain, John. How are things north of the border?
I was gonna say weather's the same as you just described here, so it's nice. And because of that, the Leafs had to remind you, it's time to hit the golf course.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. And I will be in Toronto in a couple weeks. So I'm glad the Canadian Cold Shield has at least moved a little further north. And
live show.
We can't have a live show. Well, stay tuned for the drunken GNASS Blue Jays recap. The first Wednesday in June. Yes, John, but we're in the here and now. And so on tonight's GNASS, we're recording on May 8th. In the year of our Lord 2023, our Lord being, of course, Buddha. So the bad news is John and long-suffering Maple Leafs fans, they didn't even get to enjoy their first playoff victory since Paul Martin was in office as prime minister, and they now find themselves in a 3-0 hole in the second round of the NHL playoffs. We'll also touch on the draft lottery later in the show, and getting you ready for the NBA draft lottery in a week as well. James Harden stepped back into the Wayback Machine to steal 2 playoff games against the Celtics, and 1 month into the MLB season, we'll grab a chaw, some big league chew, and check in on our favorite baseball teams, and we'll wrap up with Degenerates Corner and this weekend's social media. So, John, how much did you enjoy the Maple Leafs getting a playoff victory, and how long did that joy last? Now that the Maple Leafs find themselves down 3-0 to the Panthers, who we wrote off on this show
pretty quickly.
Very early in the NHL playoff review.
Pretty quickly. We both, I think, said that would have been the most lopsided series, and we were not the only ones on this in the first round. And the Panthers, with a miraculous comeback, they've now won 6 in a row, 3 up on the Leafs. So yeah, the first round victory was awesome, man. It was great, kind of like watching them win 3 in Florida, and then like John Tavares scores the winner in overtime in Game 6 to send them through. Like, absolutely unbelievable feeling. I was probably somewhere between the kid just kind of realizing it for the first time and that guy like ripping down street signs somewhere down Bremner. But like, that's down by Maple Leaf Square, by the way, for those who don't know.
Man, act like you've been there before.
Yeah, right. But like, to be fair, it has been 20 years, so a lot of people didn't really know how to react. But I get it, man. It was happy times, like screaming, yelling at the TV, being all fun. And we thought that it'd be nice not having the boogeyman in the second round, that being, of course, the Boston Bruins. But man, like, Florida's been red hot. They've been good, and especially led by Sergei Bobrovsky. Like, he's looked like his Vezina self, which not good for the Maple Leafs, to be honest. And Alex, we got to go off on the Maple Leafs for Game 3, man. I don't know. How much of that game did you catch?
I only caught like maybe the last like 10 minutes of the third period, and it just seemed like it's the same old song and dance with the Maple Leafs. Kind of the same thing with the Bruins. Like, I took the Panthers on the money line for that Game 7. I was like, no, this is a game the Bruins lose. And I that was a winner, of course. But I think the Maple Leafs had a real opportunity, and we touched on this on the playoff preview, that aside from the Bruins going off and having an insane regular season, this felt like it was the Maple Leafs' year in the Atlantic Division. And you get to this point now in the playoffs, you win this playoff series. I think it looks like the guys just got fat and happy winning one round of the playoffs, when
it really does, to a degree, feel like a bit of a situation where they blew their load a bit in round 1. And that's such a dude. Like, it's so disappointing because they actually had I think they outplayed the Panthers in game 1 and 2, quite frankly, but at the same time, they were very sloppy, and that costed them both
It jumps
games.
out to a 2-0 lead in game 1.
Exactly. But like the whole point is like they in both games, like I thought they could have won, and very, very sloppy mistakes costed them the game. And Florida thrives in that environment and chaos. And in game 3, they go down to Florida, and that game, despite the fact that they did get goalied a bit and they forced it to overtime, that was reminiscent of everything that was wrong with this core and why we used to say like this is why they lose these big games, man. Because you put this must-win tag on it, and it's like it's always their worst performance of the year. And like Alex, like I think you and I were texting about it when you're saying you were watching that third period. Like, how'd you feel about Mitch Marner? Just as someone looking on.
The guy does absolutely nothing for me. I mean, how hyped has he been as one of these, elite wings in the NHL for, a few years now? And it seems like he disappears more than Phil Kessel did.
Phil Kessel didn't even really, what's ironic? Phil Kessel didn't disappear in the playoffs. He did against Boston in the regular season all the time, but never in the playoffs. It's like, but yeah, Marner, like this whole problem with the team in the playoffs, like we thought that they corrected the issue against Tampa because they showed such a change in the urgency of their play, getting pucks to the net, creating traffic, causing problems for the other team, pushing back when they got hit. This series, man, it's like they've reverted. And it's crazy because they're so good that they've kept these games close and even forced overtime in game 3. But like, man, dude, they're down 0-3. Only 4 teams in NHL history have come back from that ever. Or yeah, 4 total teams in NHL history.
Has someone gagged it since the Bruins in 2010? I want to say someone's.
Mm-hmm. Do you want
Yep,
to
there has been someone since the Bruins.
Take a guess who? I guarantee you'll nail this one.
Jeez.
Constant chokers. Constant chokers.
I want to say the Flames, but I feel like the Flames haven't been in the playoffs enough to mess up that badly. Like the
You're
Capitals?
Right. Ooh, that was close. The Sharks.
Sharks. Yeah, of course. I had to have been the Sharks.
Yeah, it was LA coming back against the Sharks 2014. Philly, as you mentioned, against Boston 2010. Boston went on to win the Stanley Cup the next year. 1975, the Islanders, and 1942, Toronto Maple Leafs, actually, against the Red Wings. But like I said, like it's weird because the Leafs are so talented. I actually think they have a chance. But at the same time, their gutlessness, man. Like it's like I know that
it's hard to come back from that deficit if you think your team is gutless.
It's really bad. And not just that, like they're the team that it's like they're almost like a bad ex-girlfriend. Like it's sort of like I know you're gonna burn me again.
Right. And well, I mean, I say that, and I mean, we were calling the Red Sox in 2004 gutless the way that they went down 3-0 to the Yankees, lose 19-8 in game 3.
I remember that.
So I guess, John, you mentioned, do you think the Leafs have a chance here? Because I at least think, and we'll talk about this in Degenerate's Corner, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game in game 4, and if the Leafs are going to go down, they're still going to put up a number, and, the Panthers will have to win in a shootout.
I really think they do. It's because through 3 games, the Stars have been way too quiet for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it's just like, I get that they falter in big moments, but they're never this quiet. Like they've literally done nothing. That almost never happens for this many stretch of games for all 4 of them. And for me, like to your point, like I think they're going to go down shooting. Like they know that if they lose this game, that's it for the score, man. They're never like they're going to be trades. The coach is getting fired. The GM's getting fired.
Well, would that be the end of the world? To me, it seems like the Maple Leafs.
To me, it
just seems like their decor is lacking. I think when you're relying on Morgan Rielly to be your best defenseman, they could do better in that department. And maybe, who's gonna give you like, a huge return for Mitch Marner right now? But like he's obviously probably the easiest guy to peel off. And can you get back?
Nylander would be the illogical one because he's like near 40 goal scorer, easy, extremely reasonable contract. So he'd be the easiest move. But like, again, Alex, their season's not over, and this is going to sound really dumb, but it's like, I keep saying this, they have a chance. So I'm not going to be fully down on them and be like, oh, we should trade all these guys.
Not going to be your long shot in Degenerate's Corner?
Oh, not yet. But
you get that series prize, you get a juicy number.
Not yet, but I was going to say, like, they do have a chance because, like I said, they've controlled the lion's share of the play through 3 games, despite the fact that they had a bad effort in game 3. And I really think they can push this. Like, I still think it ends in 6 games, most likely. But it's, man, like, it's, it's, if they go down, like I said, in game 4, this is the end for this team, period. Like, they're going to make trades. So
It'd be one thing if this was a competitive series and they lost in 7 games. Like, all right, well,
that's why, yeah. It's like,
yeah, you can say that's like, all right, this is progress, but the way that they've gone down and
it's the way they've gone down for it to be 7 years in a row of your cap literally being 4 wins in the postseason. Like, at what point is this insanity? Like,
I think we're getting very close to that point.
We're pretty close.
John, let's talk about just real quickly the historic upset the Panthers pulled over the Bruins.
Okay, we'll stop on that because that's true. The Panthers have been great, so give them some.
So did we just underestimate the Panthers, even though they won the President's Trophy last year, or did the Bruins just buzz through this regular season and they weren't really that good?
The Bruins, no, the Bruins are a good team. They did overachieve, but we greatly discredited this Panthers team. The Panthers, if you look at them positionally, like Aaron Ekblad and Brandon Montour's emergence, like a 1-2 punch on D, that's crazy, almost to a point that no team really has. Don't get me wrong, Montour plays no defense, but Ekblad is a great player, and like defensively, so they complement each other in that where Montour can go up and score these 75 points he has, and Ekblad can still play the big minutes. And then you look at them up front. They're deep at center, led by Sasha Barkov, one of the best two-way centers in the game, and out wide, like Matthew Tkachuk. Dude's built for the playoffs, and he's 100-point power forward in a game in like a day where this game, there's no power forwards. He's a unicorn. And I really think we didn't give them enough credit. And don't get me wrong, the Bruins should have won that series, especially having home ice advantage.
They were up 3-2 with less than a minute left in Game 7.
Alex, I can't stress this enough too. Brad Marchand had a breakaway to seal Game 5,
and that too.
So it's like when
it never, shouldn't have ever even gotten to that point in Game 7.
Exactly, that's my point. He had a chance to end it in 5, and he didn't. And so that's why I was like, don't get me wrong, Bruins are a great team, but we got to give credit where credit's due. And Florida's battled back, and they've taken it to the Maple Leafs, and they are on fire right now. And I mean, put it this way: if they win this 4th game, we could be seeing something special.
That means they're hot for sure. And I feel like the only team that might have a chance against them are the Whalers. So we'll see how that shakes out if they can beat the Devils.
Alex, but the Maple Leafs, despite how gutless they've been, and like I said, I'm going to try not to rip on them too much just yet because I'm going to wait till they lose that next game. I'm not going to say I think they have a chance, but not going to say they're going to win because these guys have fucked me too many times in the past. But I'm not the only one who's struggling this weekend because, Alex, your Celtics are struggling against one James Harden.
Yeah, not the best showing for the Celtics because the Celtics were not in Game 4 at all until maybe the last half of the 4th quarter. So you had a real chance to steal that game, go up 3-1 in the series, and Philly did pretty much everything to give that game away. I said at the beginning of the playoffs, the two things that were probably going to sink the Celtics is Joe Mazzulla's not going to have control of the game situation, and they're not going to be able to execute in crunch time, and Marcus Smart being on the floor to close out these playoff games. You can make the case. You can make the case that Marcus Smart is the reason why they've he's supposed to be the DPOY. Can't lock down James Harden. Let's James Harden, Tyree, and Maxey go off. You lose Game 1 without Joel Embiid in the lineup for Philadelphia. Now down the stretch, I got news for Celtics fans. There's a reason why Marcus Smart is open at the end of these games. And that's because Doc Rivers and the 76ers are saying, like, all right, if Marcus Smart hits all the big shots down the stretch to beat us, we're going to have to live with that. Otherwise, they help off Marcus Smart and they'll double Tatum, and Tatum isn't as aggressive at going to the basket. So I'm not ready to say the Celtics are in trouble yet. You lose Game 5 tomorrow night. I think the Celtics are just so much better than this Philadelphia team. Like, this Philadelphia team isn't good.
But is it possible that James Harden has recaptured his form as the generational talent James Harden, and he's just that version of him is that much better than Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown?
I mean, if he kept himself, like, if he worked as hard as Kobe Bryant worked,
Oh,
through
we know
this
that's not
stage
going
of
to
his
happen, dude.
career.
I'm talking about he's capturing this form for like 7 games.
I I'm not ready to go there yet because he was a mental case in game 2 and Jaylen Brown locked him down. And so that's the other thing with this. When Jaylen Brown wanted to guard Harden after, like, he took it personally in game 1, he went to his coach and said, like, I want to take Harden more. And he said, well, you're gonna have to talk to Marcus Smart. Like, Marcus Smart isn't good enough to make that call. Like, you're plain and simple. And so,
Alex, he's the captain of the team de facto.
yeah, he definitely wants to consider himself that. But I think the Celtic, at least Jaylen Brown is asserting himself a little bit more. And if Tatum is unwilling to be assertive in certain instances, it's got to be Jaylen Brown, and he has to demand the ball. And I think if that happens, they'll be fine. And this series shouldn't come back to Boston for Game 7. But
if it does, you breathe in heavy.
No, because the Sixers are just a bunch of rats. Like, this is a trash organization. It's a trash team, and I really am not afraid of the Philadelphia 76ers. Like, may I remind you, they're paying Tobias Harris $37 million.
Yeah, but that's the cost of doing business these days, man.
Well, I mean, that's compounded by the fact. So you gave Tobias Harris, of all players, a max contract, and you chose him over Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, it's fair. But I think Jimmy had enough with dealing with the core, though.
I think he liked Embiid. I think he definitely wanted to brain Ben Simmons for good reason, because he's an overrated hack. And I think he also hated the coach, and like, so maybe they should have definitely fired Brett Brown instead of that would have satisfied Butler, because knowing that they were done on Ben Simmons as well.
Ben Simmons is just ugh. But yeah, either way, Alex, you got to give some credit to James Harden though. Like, you're not going to say anything like, oh, it's just like he hasn't recaptured his form, isn't knocking it down, isn't destroying the Celts. You got to come on, man. Let's feed into JJ Redick's analysis here.
I think if they double him, and with Brown is picking him up full court, like I said, Brown got in foul trouble in game 4. Like, I think he had 2 fouls when 4 minutes into the game. So I think if Jaylen Brown picks up Harden full court, you can wear him down, because James Harden is not what we would say an athlete in peak physical condition. Spends too much time at the strip clubs.
I mean, I would too if I had that much money, man. It's just not feasible with my salary.
Yeah, no, there's certainly if you have his financial resources, I'm sure he can have a fun time at the strip club for himself.
Are you worried at all as the longer this series goes on, the more Jason Tatum might struggle?
Yes, but Tatum didn't have a great shooting game last game, but he found ways to impact the game. Like, he had 8-9 assists, he had 16 rebounds later. Like, I might even have more by the end of the game. So if he's having inefficient shooting night, like, he's got to give me that. And so if he can do that the rest of the series and impact the game in a different way, I'm not as scared, and assuming Jaylen Brown keeps being assertive, then I think we should be okay here.
I like to think the Celtics.
But I'm still not happy.
I'd like to think the Celtics have enough depth to make it through a series like that, but especially given the wear and tear on James Harden. But he's playing out of his brain right now.
And if Missoula can just deal with making Marcus Smart pissed off, and Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon are on the floor, there's no better 5-man unit left in the playoffs than Al Horford / Rob Williams, Tatum, Brown, Brogdon, White. Like, that is a very, very strong lineup. And just like,
yeah, and as I say, can go up and down the court, match up against anyone in any situation too.
Yeah,
which is just so useful, especially like you said, like, because a guy like James Harden, not necessarily the most athletic at his position, and not willing to put in the effort that's required sometimes with the team that has good movement on the defensive end.
Right. And because the Celtics have been attacking him defensively And so maybe, who knows, one of these games he gets in foul trouble, like just like Brown did. So that's certainly on the table.
Alex, let's take a quick break and then we'll hit the diamond for some big league chew. And we're back. Alex, like I said, let's take some grounders, let's throw some pitches, let's hit the diamond. We got a weird one to talk about. So, Alex, you said the Red Sox were going to be very bad at the beginning of the year, like very, very bad.
Yep, they're making me eat some crow right now, and Heim Bloom looks like a competent executive, and I never thought those words would come out of my mouth. I still don't think the Red Sox are really that good, and I think another, if Devers pulls a hamstring or Verdugo slides into a slump, like there's a fine line between being competitive and this team, the bottom falling out of it. And like we saw at the beginning of the year how trash they were. But they're starting to beat good teams now, and it does, like, it's like, all right, so like, all right, maybe this team is better than I thought, and maybe a lot of people thought. Their former shortstop might win the National League Most Valuable Player. He's an early candidate, he's an early front runner for it, and imagine Xander Bogaerts was still in this lineup. Like, where would this team be? And instead of having to watch Kike Hernandez fumble the ball at shortstop, at one point this season, he had more errors than hits. So I'm not like, and then like all the fanboys like trying to shame us into like thinking this team is good. It's like I'll get there when I get there. And I'm not there yet.
You got to give credit where credit's due, man.
They've had this, they had this 8 game where they swept the Blue Jays in 4 games. Like I never thought I'd say that this season, given how piss poor the Red Sox were against the Toronto last year. So I mean, yeah, it's an encouraging sign. I think the rubber's going to meet the road now for Heim Bloom at the trade deadline. Can you part with some of these lower tier? I'm not asking anyone to trade Marcelo Mayer and make some stupid splash, but like, can we trade some of these mid tier guys, like, an Alex Benelis or I don't know, some other. I can't think of another random prospect off the top of my head, but just someone like that who's not the cream of the crop, and we know that they're the cream of the crop. But can you trade something? Bundle a few of those guys and get like a one more starting pitcher and actually invest in this team in the major league level, because Heim Bloom really hasn't done that as GM for a team that's in contention.
Well,
but John, I mentioned the Blue Jays getting swept by, I guess, what we thought was going to be a crappy Red Sox team. Is the temperature rising in Toronto a little bit? It seems like it's the same problems over and over again. They're a pitcher short.
It's weird because you'd think the pitcher thing is a little weird. But it's at the same time, there's a degree of like, it's hard to be mad at them because they'd be in first place in almost every other division in baseball.
Right. And Tampa's having this historic,
exactly. And like the only teams better than them pretty much like are Tampa and Atlanta. They're the only ones that are clear cut better than them. Like, yes, Baltimore is slightly ahead of them right now, but I don't expect that to last over the long haul of the season, just because I think Baltimore isn't there yet. Like, I think this is just the beginning of their ascension.
Right.
And with the Jays, like, yeah.
And then are they going to get stupid and pay someone like Chris Davis again and be like, oh, well, we paid Chris Davis, so we can't keep Manny Machado or like an actual good player.
Right. Like actual players they've acquired. But it's weird with the Jays because they do feel a pitcher short, but it's also, there's a degree of like Barrios and Chris Bassett struggled, but I expected that to a degree coming over to the AL. But Barrios in particular and Alek Manoah have been awful. And the bullpen has been lights out to kind of make up for that. If those two can figure it out, like this team is in fantastic shape and should be able to make amazing ground on the Tampa Bay Rays. But yeah, it's weird because it's like, yes, I want more of this team, but I'm not mad yet. And I don't think the rest of Toronto is. And plus they have a great cover with the Leafs in town, man. Great cover.
True, yes. Toronto won't start paying attention for at least one more night or
couple weeks. But yeah, well, thanks to the NHL, it'll be a week or two because the days between these games. But yeah, like the Blue Jays, I think I'd like to see kind of similar to what you're saying about the Red Sox. Like whether it's Manoah figuring it out and finally ascending or getting back to his Cy Young form. I shouldn't say ascending because he almost won the Cy Young last year, but getting back to that form, or actually bringing in a player who's more consistent, potentially even shipping out Barrios to make room for that contract. Like, it's, you need to get that top end starter locked down, especially come playoff time. And like, if you can, and the Jays honestly believe they can do it from within, with whether it's Alek Manoah or eventually down the road once it becomes Ricky Tiedemann being called up, who's their top prospect. But like, they expect it to be an internal thing, and
they think he'll be up this season.
they think he'll be up towards the end of the season, just to like maybe more in like long relief type situations. But for it's, they're more gambling on Manoah at this point because he's shown that he has the body of work or and the profile of a top line starter. It's just like he's really struggled this year, man. And I'd like to think Barrios could also potentially have that ceiling, but he has so many issues with home runs and playing in Toronto for the long term. Like, that's not a good combination.
No.
And so, yeah, exactly. Right. And so it has to come from, like, I think it's got to be Manoah or Tiedemann, or you, like, to your point, like, you go out and make a trade if you're that team. And, but the Jays are in a slightly different position than the Red Sox. Like, anything besides Tiedemann, I'm fucking cool with them trading.
Right. No, it's the Blue Jays are definitely in win now mode while they still have,
Exactly.
this core under control. And obviously Guerrero's due for a big old payday very soon.
Oh, buddy. That home run he crushed the other day.
Oh, yeah. Fenway. Yeah, that was a moonshot. That might have gone over the Mass Pike.
That was disgusting. Like, oh, but yeah, like I said, it's exciting times, and like, man, it's funny because the Red Sox are not as bad as you thought, but Alex, they're still in fourth.
There's a 10-game losing streak coming. They like
Alex, they're still in fourth with the judgeless Yankees behind them.
I refuse to believe there isn't a 10-game losing streak in this Red Sox team's future, and that's what's keeping me going right now.
Cash that under, baby. Cash that under.
Cash that under.
Oh. Alex, I think that's enough of Big League Chew for right now. So I think it's time to put some money on the line in everyone's favorite segment. It's time for Degenerate's Corner.
Well, sometimes she goes, sometimes it does. She didn't go. That's the way she goes.
22 black, 22 black. Ass, son of a bitch.
Fucking way she goes, he said.
Oh, no. Why did I bet the company payroll? Oh, Gil's in a lot of trouble.
Can the boys beat the number? We'll find out on Degenerate's Corner.
That's the way she goes, buddy. Fucking way she goes.
Alex, well, we've had a little bit of a break since our last show, so let's not worry about the bets of the past. Let's only worry about bets that can make us money now. So, Alex, what is your best bet?
So, best bet. This is a DraftKings boost. They're the quasi-monopolistic sportsbook operator in my home state of New Hampshire. So sorry if this deal doesn't apply to others, but they got a deal. Jaylen Brown they got Jaylen Brown and James Harden each scoring 20 points, and that's boosted to plus 110. So we talked about James Harden. I don't expect him to drop, another 30, 40 point game, but I think 20 points is more than reasonable for Harden, even if he's a little bit jittery in another game in Boston. And Jaylen Brown said he has to demand the ball, so I'm going to take him at his word and hope that he's really assertive and can go out and score 20. John, what are you looking for your best bet?
My best bet, I'm looking to one man from Germany. That man is Leon Draisaitl. Alex, the legend of Leon Draisaitl's playoffs is absolutely epic. This man has
unstoppable.
Like, literally a fucking machine. He has 13 goals in 8 games right now, and he was stopped last game, which can only mean one thing. He's fucking scoring tonight. So I bet on Leon Draisaitl to score tonight versus the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Like I said, that is tonight as we record, May 8th. So that is a minus 125 odd. Leon Draisaitl to score and continue his dominance. I actually think he's going to break the playoff goal record, even if they're outed in the conference final, which is like a fucking crazy thought.
That didn't happen last year. Like him and McDavid.
McDavid had the most points in the modern era, despite being outed in the conference final. I think he had like 40 something points or something like that, or like 39 or 40 points, but it was like crazy. Alex, now it's time for our parlays. What is your parlay or long shot if you so choose?
So I got a little NBA 4-leg and NBA and NHL 4 legs. We're gonna take the Celtics team total over 111.5. I trust the Celtics offense. That's one thing I do trust about this team. Philadelphia, like, who knows? Maybe they don't show up and they only score 90 points. So I'm not necessarily like the entire game total over. But we're gonna isolate the Celtics. So we're gonna take them over 111.5. We're gonna do a couple overs in the NHL. We're gonna take the Whalers and Devils over 5.5. Those games, that's tomorrow, and then John's Maple Leafs. Hopefully they bring their scoring touch because we're gonna go over 6.5 when they play in Florida on the 10th, and then also tomorrow night we got the Suns and Nuggets. We're gonna go over 228. Hopefully. I don't think altitude will be that much of a factor because they're on pretty much the same travel schedule at this point. So, altogether that pays out plus 1158. Where are you going for your long shot or parlay, John?
I am going for a 3-sport money line parlay that takes place over the next 2 to 3 days. So first, Alex, we're going to hit the court. We're going to take the Lakers money line at home against the Golden State Warriors. Really just no numbers behind this, just going with the Lakers because they're at home. Then I'm going to go with the Heat versus the Knicks on the money line. Heat money line, of course, at home. I just think this is the Heat's year for some reason to make a deep run. Like, we're seeing it put together. Like, they're a veteran team. They know how to get it done. The Knicks they're a young team. They're still figuring it out. And I just think there's a lack of a top end star that really doesn't have an answer for Jimmy Butler, to be honest. And Julius Randle, all credit to him, man, but I don't think he's stopping Jimmy. Next one, we kind of touched on it already. Draisaitl's scoring machine. So I'm gonna take the Oilers money line against the Golden Knights on May 8th. So that's tonight as well. Then we get into our first game tomorrow. We're going to hit the Champions League in Europe. So we're going to take Manchester City to beat Real Madrid on the money line. Manchester City absolutely on fire. Erling Haaland cannot be stopped. He's the most fun thing to watch in soccer. He's the size of an NBA power forward. He runs like Usain Bolt. And he can score every way imaginable. He's the most, like I said, most explosive, most fun player to watch. If you're not into soccer because it's low scoring, take a fucking look at this guy. And of course, the last one, we have the Milana Derby. Inter versus AC. I'm going to take Inter on the money line for this one. Now, this is a weird one because both games, whether it's home or away, are technically home at the San Siro for both teams. This is one of Italy's most famous rivalries. These two teams are so close in the standings, they're only 2 points apart. Inter is in better form right now, having won 4 of the last 5 games, though. I'm taking Inter to beat AC, obviously, like I said, at home for everyone. This shit is going to have some fireworks, though, so please watch May 10th. Alex, that is my parlay for a total of plus 1888.
That's juicy. We like juicy. And so as we transition to this week in social media, just because life just happens a little bit too fast online, and here at GNASS, we like to take a minute to enjoy the cesspool that is social media. You mentioned the Lakers being on your money line. Well, John, there might be a reason why the Lakers have been doing so well since...
Are you telling me I'm going to make some money?
Since January 29th. When that was the infamous
LeBron James complaint.
Yeah, LeBron James going into the fetal position after the refs declined to call a foul on Jason Tatum. So the refs apologized to the Lakers on January 29th. Before this happened, the Lakers had a, call it, 3 free throw differential plus 3 free throw differential per game. Since then, that's over 9, John. And they haven't lost the free throw differential by more than 5 free throws since that date. And so this, I beg your pardon. This comes from our friends at Strictly Data Science, at Data Strictly on the Twitter machine. And this goes to one of the more annoying parts about the NBA is that the NBA maybe hasn't been above engineering playoff series by awarding a buttload of free throws to their preferred team. And it happened in 2002 with the Lakers. It happened in 2010 with the Lakers. I'm saying there's a pattern here. So Hope it pays. Hope your bet's on the right side of it, and because you'll get the Lakers will probably get 10 extra points at the line.
Hopefully,
in
hopefully it
tomorrow
makes me
night.
some money, dude. Hopefully.
They're just gonna make the free
Alex?
throws.
For my best bet, we are going to hit the ice because tonight is the NHL draft lottery. And of course, we have a generational talent that's on the board for anyone who happens to win. It's Connor Bedard, folks. So please, I retweeted it from the GNASS account. Please watch if you're unaware of Connor Bedard. This guy is a human highlight reel. He's going to be so much fun to watch once he's in the National Hockey League. He's a little slight, so a little bit of an injury concern, but he shoots like Matthews. He skates like McDavid. And he's got the hands of Patrick Kane. Like, he is a human highlight reel. He's fun to watch.
You think he could be better than Connor McDavid?
I think he could score more points for sure.
Okay.
And because I think he has the one thing he has that McDavid doesn't at this age is the ability to score NHL style goals from like one-timers and shooting. Like, McDavid still to a degree doesn't fully have that in his arsenal. And neither does, for example, Austin Matthews, who's the best like goal scorer in the game. Like, Connor Bedard can post up and take one-timers if necessary. And in addition to doing all the things that superstars generally do in terms of like just making highlight reel plays. So it just adds another dimension, like his ability to score from distance that makes him that much more dangerous. And like I said, Alex, who would you like him to end up on if you could pick anyone that has a chance? And
So
I put a copy of the odds by
yes,
the way.
yeah. So I mean, it would be very NHL if he ended up in a place like Columbus or Arizona. But at least the Coyotes are wearing like the cool 90s jerseys again. So that it would be very NHL and hilarious, but I revert to the NBA engineering their draft lottery in certain instances. And so where do I think he's going to end up? I would probably say some combination of Chicago, Philadelphia, or Detroit.
That's what I think as well. But where do you want him to end up?
Where do I want him to end up? Yeah, Arizona, because that'd be the most hilarious.
Oh, I want him to end up on Anaheim, buddy.
Anaheim would be funny too.
Think about this. It is a small market team, but a small market team with Mason McTavish, Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras, Jamie Drysdale, like basically like all these, and they have right now in their minor league system the WHL defenseman of the year, the OHL defenseman of the year, and I believe it's the AHL or Europe defenseman of the year. Like,
I'd be okay
European
with that
hockey.
as long as they only wore the Mighty Ducks uniforms again.
Oh no, that's my point. You wear the Mighty Ducks uniforms, you get all these human highlight reel players in one place, and then you never put them on fucking TV. Classic Gary Bettman.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, John, before we wrap up, the NBA draft lottery is on May 16th, so we may or may not get another show in before then. So at least one last time for our viewer and listening audience, courteous of our friends at Tankathon. John, can you spin the wheel and find out who's going to win the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes?
Of course, my friend. As always, we go over it. The top odds, of course, are the Detroit Pistons. So here we go. Where does he? Oh, the Houston Rockets.
Oh wow, the Pistons fell all the way to 4. And Utah jump up to 3, but can only be one winner in the sweepstakes, John, and that's going to be the Houston Rockets. So congratulations to Houston. Maybe you may have just won. You may win, but at least here on GNASS, you are this week's winners of the Victor the Wemby sweepstakes.
There we go. There we go. So there we go. He could be on Houston. He may not be, hopefully. And we have another lottery tonight if that so much excites you. But thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Alex, any other thoughts for our viewers, our listeners, our our subscribers as we
check out more GNASS content on the Substack, of course. You can find that on the link tree. And 10-game losing streak, John, is coming. Any day now.
Yeah, hopefully it's the reverse for the Leafs and they go on a
the reverse Lou Brown is what I'm going for with the Red Sox.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, all right, buddy.